They starved their own biological daughter while spoiling an adopted girl. She died, then woke up in the past with a second chance, and this time she had a billionaire family behind her. She's tied to a chair in a dark warehouse, trembling, breath sharp and shallow. And this is where her story begins, at the moment she should have died. For years she begged the people she called family to believe her. She tried to prove her innocence, her loyalty, her love. But every single time, they chose the liar. They chose the girl who pretended to be their perfect daughter. They chose the one who stole her place, her voice, and even her name. Inside that mansion, where she should have been cherished, she was starved. While the adopted daughter enjoyed custom meals and designer jewelry, she survived on leftover scraps and cafeteria food. They told the world she was ungrateful, when all she ever wanted was a warm meal and a little kindness. Her room wasn't a bedroom, it was a storage closet with a cold floor and a broken fan. And yet, she endured it all. She believed that if she worked harder, if she stayed quiet, if she just kept pleasing them, they would eventually love her. But tonight, in this warehouse, she finally learns the truth. They never planned to love her. They only planned to break her. Her sister circled her like a predator, fueled by jealousy, rage, and the desperate fear of being replaced. For years, that sister wore the life that never belonged to her, her clothes, her privileges, her family's affection. And now she's ready to finish what she started the first time. But this time, something is different. Because around the victim's neck hangs a diamond necklace, simple, elegant, and recording every second, every secret, every confession, every crime. For the first time, the truth is no longer hidden behind lies and favoritism. It's preserved forever, captured by the camera she quietly prepared long before walking into this trap.
As her sister lunges forward, ready to silence her once and for all, she doesn't scream, she doesn't beg, she doesn't break. She knows exactly what she's doing. Because this moment, this terrifying final confrontation, is not the end of her story. It's the moment that changes everything. And just as her sister's hands reach for her throat, her world goes white. She opens her eyes again, not in the warehouse, not tied to a chair, but years earlier, in her past life. A second chance, a new beginning. And this time, she won't please anyone. She'll make them pay. In her first life, the cruelty didn't start in the warehouse. It started inside the Cheng family mansion, behind polished marble floors, chandelier lights, and the illusion of love. And the moment that revealed everything was a simple necklace. Not just any necklace, but her mother's most treasured diamond heirloom. A piece passed down through generations, a symbol of pride, a symbol of belonging, and something she was never allowed to touch. The adopted daughter wore it that day, twirling in front of the mirror like she owned the entire world. And everyone in that family acted like she did. To them, she was perfect, precious, untouchable. Meanwhile, the biological daughter, the real heir, stood at the doorway, frozen, watching the girl who stole her life put on the one object she had always associated with mother. When she gently tried to take it back, everything changed. The house erupted. The adopted daughter screamed first, spinning the story in an instant. The parents came running. Brothers followed behind with accusing eyes already filled with judgment. And before she could explain anything, her world collapsed under the weight of every false word spoken against her. They said she was stealing. They said she was jealous. They said she was trying to ruin their precious daughter's happiness.
No one asked her what happened. No one believed her trembling voice. No one even gave her a chance, because in that house, her truth never mattered. The adopted daughter was lifted up like royalty, comforted, protected, wrapped in affection. But she, their own blood, was shouted at, blamed, and pushed aside like a stain on the family name. And then came the part that hurt most. Her mother, her biological mother, snatched the necklace from her hands as if her touch had dirtied it. She held it close, not to protect the heirloom, but to protect the adopted daughter from the troublemaker. The girl they claimed they'd rescued. The girl they insisted they'd given everything to. But the truth was simple. They gave her nothing. Not love, not trust. Not a place in the family she was born into. That necklace wasn't just jewelry. It was the proof she didn't belong. In that moment, she realized she wasn't the cherished daughter. She was the unwanted reminder of a past they wished they could erase. And as her accusations echoed through the mansion, a colder truth settled into her bones. In this house, even her mother would rather believe a lie than believe her. And that was only the beginning. She wasn't just another child in the Cheng household. She was their biological daughter, born to them, connected by blood, carrying the very surname they were so proud of. But 13 years ago, they made a choice that shaped her entire life. They abandoned her, left her at an orphanage, walked away as if she meant nothing. And when they finally came back for her, it wasn't out of love. It was out of convenience. They needed an accessory to complete their perfect family portrait. They needed a puppet to balance their reputation, but they never needed her. From the moment she returned, they showed her exactly where she stood in their world. Not inside the warmth of a daughter's bedroom, but in a storage room, a cramped, dusty, forgotten corner of the mansion, where boxes were stacked higher than her hopes. She didn't have a bed, just a thin mat laid on a cold floor that smelled of mold and neglect. There was no air conditioning in a house filled with luxury. Only a broken fan that rattled louder than her heartbeat and pushed around warm, suffocating air. Every night she curled up on that floor, alone in the darkness, trying to convince herself that this was temporary, that someday one of them would open the door and finally see her pain. But the door never opened, and no one came. Her stomach often twisted in hunger, not from skipping meals by choice, but because she rarely had any. The rich family who paraded their wealth to the world couldn't be bothered to feed their own daughter. She worked part-time jobs just to afford cafeteria food. She hid her pain behind a quiet smile. And she told herself she could endure it, because maybe they would eventually love her. But deep down, she knew the truth. They didn't bring her back to love her. They brought her back to use her. And that storage room, that cold, suffocating space, became the symbol of everything she meant to them. A reminder that to the Chengs, she wasn't family. She was a burden, a mistake, a shadow they didn't want anyone else to see. She was born a daughter, but in that mansion she lived like an unwanted servant. And the saddest part is this: she would have endured it all if they had shown her even the smallest piece of kindness. But they never did. And the pain she swallowed in that storage room would become the fire that fueled her second life. In the Cheng household, food was never scarce. Their dining table overflowed with delicacies, desserts, imported fruits, and chef-prepared meals crafted to perfection. But all of that abundance was not for her. Every day, the adopted daughter received custom-made dishes based on her preferences: nutritious lunches, freshly baked pastries, bowls of ice cream, and handmade peanut desserts prepared by a private kitchen staff. And the biological daughter? She lived on the cheapest cafeteria meals the school could offer. Her parents handed her a meal card, almost empty, barely enough for plain rice and vegetables. When she ran out of money, she didn't ask her family. She knew the answer. She went to the accounting office, head lowered, and borrowed a few coins, sometimes 10 yuan, sometimes 5. Each time, she wrote an IOU, a tiny slip of paper that recorded her humiliation. Dozens of IOUs. Dozens of tiny confessions of poverty. All signed by a girl living in one of the richest homes in the city. While the adopted daughter tasted luxury, she tasted shame. To survive, she cleaned classrooms after school. She carried water buckets for teachers. She sorted recycling. And when she fell sick from exhaustion, she still dragged herself to her part-time shifts because missing one meant having nothing to eat the next day. Her body grew weaker. Her stomach developed chronic pain from malnutrition. Yet when her foster father once brought mooncakes as a small gift, she didn't dare eat them. She kept them sealed, stored away like treasure, because kindness was rarer than food in that mansion. And still, the Cheng family insisted she was ungrateful, dramatic, misbehaved. They told everyone she was a disappointment, a burden, a girl they raised with effort who constantly caused trouble. But the truth was simple. They didn't raise her. They starved her. Every IOU she signed was a reminder that in their home, even the servants were treated better than she was. The help ate full meals. The help slept on proper beds. The help had dignity. She had none. For 3 years, she swallowed hunger and humiliation in silence. For 3 years, she carried the weight of a family that didn't want her. And for 3 years, she was treated worse than a servant. Until the girl who stole her place tried to end her life. And that was the moment everything changed. She endured 3 years of hunger, lies, and cruelty inside the Cheng family mansion. 3 years of being blamed, silenced, and pushed aside. But the moment that ended that life, the moment that forced fate to intervene, came on a quiet street under a pale evening sky. She had run from the house in tears that day, after yet another round of accusations, another avalanche of insults, another reminder that she was never going to be the daughter they cherished. She could barely breathe as she stepped onto the asphalt, her vision blurred by pain and exhaustion. And then she saw the headlights. They were speeding toward her. The car did not slow. The driver did not hesitate, because behind the wheel was the sister her parents adored, Champa, the girl who stole her place, the girl they praised, the girl they protected, and the girl who, in that one moment, left her broken in the street. The impact threw her body to the ground. Pain exploded through her limbs. Her blood pooled beneath her. And as she lay there, shaking, gasping, fading, she heard the tires screech away. No apology, no panic, no guilt, just escape. The beloved daughter of the Cheng family didn't save her. She ran. And that was how her first life ended. Not with love, not with family at her side, but alone, abandoned on the pavement. As darkness closed in around her, she was taken to the hospital. Machines beeped, doctors rushed. But her mind drifted somewhere far away, to the one truth she had tried so hard to ignore. Her parents never believed her. Not once. Not even when she told the truth. Not even when she begged. Her brothers trusted the wrong sister, the one who smiled sweetly in front of them and stabbed her in the dark. They defended the liar. They punished the innocent. And she learned the most painful lesson of all. Everything she loved could be taken from her. Her room, her place, her family, even her life. In that fading moment, lying between life and death, a single thought rose above everything. If I get another life, I'll stop pleasing others. Her heartbeat slowed. Her vision dimmed. Her world turned black. And then, something shifted. Instead of the cold emptiness of death, she felt warmth. A blanket beneath her, the faint smell of old wallpaper, the familiar sound of birds outside. She opened her eyes. She wasn't in the hospital. She wasn't in the Cheng mansion. She wasn't dying. She was in her childhood room, the small, humble space in her adoptive parents' home, the one place where she had once been loved. She touched her face with trembling hands. Her body was younger. Her wounds were gone. Her timeline had rewound years. But her memories, every slap, every insult, every tear, remained. She remembered the storage room. She remembered the IOUs. She remembered the car hitting her body. Same body, earlier timeline, all memories intact. In her first life, she chased blood ties and abandoned the family who raised her with kindness. But in this life, she would not make that mistake twice. This time, she won't choose blood. She'll choose the people who truly loved her, the ones who gave her food, warmth, and a home. Her adoptive parents, her adoptive brother, her real family. And as she sat up in that familiar bed, emotion shaking her chest, a new fire filled her heart. In this life, my family is only my adoptive parents and brother. And as for the Chengs, every injustice, I will remember. When she opened her eyes in her old room, in the home of her adoptive parents, the shock lingered in her chest like a second heartbeat. This was the place she had once abandoned, the home she had traded for a surname that never protected her. And now, she had been given the chance to walk through it all again, this time with the truth. Her adoptive mother rushed in first, worry written across every line on her face. Her adoptive father followed closely, calling her name with trembling relief. And then there was her brother. The same brother she had pushed away in her first life, now standing before her with a cup of warm ginger tea, the steam rising like a quiet promise. In her first life, she never realized how deeply they cared for her. She never noticed the small things. Her mother adjusting the blankets when she slept, her father leaving the porch light on until she came home, her brother waking early to walk her to school. She had chosen the Cheng family and hurt the ones who had given her everything they could. And now, seeing them through the lens of memory, the guilt nearly crushed her. Her brother placed the tea in her hands, eyes soft. He didn't know she remembered all the pain from a life that hadn't happened yet. He didn't know she was carrying the weight of 2 timelines. He simply smiled, reassuring and gentle, and said the same words he used to say in her past life. Words she ignored back then, but felt like salvation now. As long as you see me as your brother, I'd give you my life. And in that moment, she made her first real choice of this new life. She chose them.
The family she once betrayed. The family she would now protect. With the strength of a girl who had already lived this life once before, she set a new goal, one she never took seriously the first time. She would take the Gaokao, the National College Entrance Exam. She would change her destiny not by begging for love, but by building a future that no one could steal. Her friends at school were the first to cheer for her decision. They brought piles of old exam prep books, marked up notes, past papers, and highlighters. They surrounded her desk with encouragement, telling her what she needed to hear. For us, the Gaokao is the easiest way to change your life. And for the first time, she believed it. Days turned into a quiet, determined routine. Morning light filtering through her window, evenings spent with textbooks, nights reviewing formulas and essays. Her brother brought snacks. Her mother rubbed her shoulders. Her father offered warm soup for late-night study sessions. While her world was filled with quiet effort and genuine love, across the city, the Cheng family was living in a different narrative. They were convinced she would come crawling back. They believed it was only a matter of time before she realized she needed them. They mocked her behind closed doors, whispering that she was just rebelling for attention. They told everyone she couldn't survive without their name, their money, their status. In their minds, she was still the girl they starved into obedience. But they didn't know the truth. She wasn't surviving anymore. She was building, growing, transforming. And every page she turned, every exam problem she solved, every night she stayed awake with determination was a step toward the moment when she would finally rise above them all. They thought she was nothing without their name. They had no idea she was about to outshine their favorite daughter on the biggest stage. The weeks leading up to the Gaokao passed like a quiet storm. She wasn't loud about her efforts. She didn't brag or announce her progress. She simply studied, day after day, night after night, with a determination sharpened by 2 lifetimes of pain. This exam was more than a test. It was her first step toward reclaiming everything she lost. On the morning of the Gaokao, she walked into the exam center with steady breaths, clutching her admission slip. Students crowded around the gates, nervous energy filling the air. Parents handed out water bottles. Teachers shouted last-minute reminders. Everyone felt the weight of what this day meant. She felt it too, but in a different way. To them, the Gaokao was a chance. To her, it was redemption. As she approached the entrance, her friends surrounded her, showering her with encouragement. One of them leaned in with a teasing grin and said, "Yeah, you're going to make our ancestors proud." The group burst into laughter, trying to lighten the tension, but deep down, they meant every word. She didn't say much. She didn't need to. Her resolve spoke louder than any speech ever could. Inside the exam hall, silence wrapped around her like armor. Rows of desks, the sound of papers shuffling, pens tapping. The heavy authority of exam proctors pacing the aisles. When she opened the test booklet, she paused for a moment, not out of fear, but out of gratitude. In her past life, she never had the chance to fight for herself. In this life, she would seize it. Her pen moved with quiet confidence. Every answer felt like a step away from the family that broke her. Every page turned felt like a step toward the future she would finally shape with her own hands. When the final bell rang, she walked out into the sunlight, not victorious yet, but at peace. Results day came faster than expected. She returned to school quietly, blending into the background like she always had. Students crowded the notice board. Excitement buzzed through the halls. But she remained calm, standing a few steps back, heart steady. Then the principal called her into his office. He held the paper in his hands for a long moment, before finally speaking, voice trembling with awe. Out of 750, you scored 701. You're our national top scorer. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. Not out of shock, but out of overwhelming relief. The girl who had been treated like nothing had surpassed every expectation. And yet, instead of pride, she felt humility. Soft, quiet, powerful. She bowed her head slightly, thanking the principal with the sincerity of someone who finally realized her own worth. The news spread through the school like wildfire. Students screamed, teachers cried. Her friends ran toward her, hugging her so tightly she could barely stand upright. They lifted her in the air as if she were a champion returning from a battlefield. And in many ways, she was. Her silent transformation was complete. The principal insisted on honoring her at the upcoming school celebration banquet. He wanted her to speak, to represent the school, to inspire future generations. She accepted, grateful, composed, ready. But across town, the Cheng family was living in their own delusion. They celebrated Ba's score of 650 as if it were a national miracle. They invited relatives, ordered expensive cakes, and filled their living room with flowers. Father Cheng bragged endlessly, telling everyone that Ba was surely one of the top scorers and planning to donate a library in her name as a grand public gesture. The whole family was convinced Ba would be honored at the school banquet, completely unaware that the daughter they abandoned had surpassed them all. They prepared a library for the wrong daughter and stepped into the most public humiliation of their lives. The celebration hall was glowing with gold lights, banners, and applause. Teachers filled the tables. Parents adjusted their fine clothes. This was the moment everyone waited for, the announcement of the national top scorer. And the Cheng family arrived exactly as expected, loud, proud, convinced of their own glory. Ba led the way, chin raised so high she could barely see where she was walking. Her mother fixed her hair every few steps. Her father rehearsed the speech he planned to give about discipline, parenting, and his so-called talented daughter. Even her brothers were buzzing with excitement. They walked in like royalty entering a coronation. They had no idea the crown didn't belong to them. Then the MC stepped onto the stage, microphone in hand, voice booming through the speakers. Tonight we celebrate the national top scorer of the Gao Cow, the highest score our region has seen in years, and the pride of the Cheng family. The entire room gasped. The Cheng parents straightened their backs. Ba smiled as if the world finally recognized her worth. Everyone turned to look at them. It should have been the perfect moment. Except it wasn't meant for them. The principal took the mic next, smiling warmly but with a certain weight in his voice. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. The name of this year's national top scorer. The hall grew silent. Is not Cheng Ba. The Cheng family froze. Their smiles cracked. Ba's breath hitched. The principal continued, with a clarity that sliced through the air. The national top scorer, with an astounding score of 701, is Cheng Yi. The hall erupted into whispers. Ba's jaw fell open. Her mother blinked repeatedly as if trying to rewrite reality. Her father took a step forward, panicked, stuttering words no one could understand. Ba managed to force out a trembling whisper.
Cheng Yi. Her.
Parents in the audience exchanged looks. Students murmured. Teachers stared in shock. And for the first time ever, people turned away from Bar and turned toward the entrance, waiting for the real top scorer. But it wasn't the Chengs who stepped forward. The lights shifted toward the stage stairs. The MC raised the microphone again. Please welcome the parents of the national top scorer, Mr. Gao and Ms. Sun. A collective gasp followed, because it wasn't the Cheng parents who appeared, it was her adoptive parents. The couple who fed her, protected her, waited for her, and loved her long before the rich mansion ever acknowledged her existence. They stepped onto the stage with calm grace. Behind them walked her adoptive brother, tall, protective, and unbothered by the shocked crowd. They didn't look ashamed. They didn't look confused. They looked proud. The Cheng family, on the other hand, looked like their entire world had been pulled from under them. Then she appeared. She walked toward the stage, not hiding, not timid, not apologizing. For the first time in both her lives, she stood where she truly belonged. When she reached the microphone, she bowed respectfully to the teachers, then turned to the people beside her, her real family. And she spoke. My achievements today are because of the parents who never let me go hungry, the brother who never let me face the world alone, and the home where I was always loved. The Cheng parents flinched as if slapped. She didn't look at them, not even once. She didn't need revenge in that moment. Her existence was revenge enough. Then the narrator kicks in, weaving the truth into the scene. What the crowd didn't know was that the lawyers standing backstage came from Gao Corporation, the wealthiest family in the region. The legal documents were already signed. The decision was final. From that moment on, Cheng Yi was no longer Cheng Yi. Her name was officially Gao Yi, daughter of the most powerful family the Chengs had ever underestimated. The MC closed the segment with thunderous applause, but the Cheng family just stood there, frozen, choking on the humiliation they created themselves. For the first time, they realized the girl they starved, ignored, and belittled was now protected by the wealthiest family in the city. And this was only the beginning. When she left the school banquet, she believed the biggest surprise of her life had already happened. But fate still held something far larger, something she never could have imagined in her first life. Because when the car stopped, she stepped out and realized she wasn't standing in front of her old, modest neighborhood anymore. She was standing in front of a mansion. No, an estate. So vast it looked like a private kingdom. Ivory walls, endless gardens. Rows of staff lined at the entrance, bowing as if greeting royalty. For a moment she thought there must have been a mistake, but her adoptive mother took her hand gently. Yeah, this is our home. Her adoptive father walked beside her, smiling warmly. We didn't tell you before, he said, voice soft but strong, because we wanted you to grow up humble, not spoiled. The truth hit her like a tidal wave. Her real, true parents, the ones who fed her, protected her, wept for her, searched for her, were multi-billionaires. Not wealthy, not rich, billionaires. The kind of family the Chengs could never even dream of becoming. They walked her inside, room after room lighting up like scenes from a dream. A private art gallery, a music hall, a garden spanning acres, and a bedroom prepared with every detail she ever loved. Not because she begged, not because she flattered, not because she pleased anyone, but simply because she was their daughter. Her mother opened a velvet box filled with jewelry pieces she had designed as a child, drawings she made with crayons and pencil, preserved like priceless treasures. Her father kissed the top of her head. "These were your doodles," he said. "Now we'll bring them to life. We'll turn them into a jewelry collection. Your collection." Then her brother appeared. Not the cruel boys from the Cheng family, not the brothers who believed lies instead of her pain, but the brother who never abandoned her, who ran to the hospital, who stood by her when she was starving, who told her she was family even when she didn't believe it herself. He was tall, confident, sharp-eyed, the CEO of Gao Corporation, nationally known, respected, feared in business. He smiled and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Yeah, you're strong, stronger than you know. Now it's time for the world to see you." He showed her her future, a university spot at the country's most prestigious school, a jewelry design path fully supported by their private design lab, connections with global artists, plans for her own exhibition, an exhibition the biggest names in the industry would attend. She stared at the sketches she drew as a lonely child, drawings she thought meant nothing, drawings she hid so no one would tease her, drawings she once believed would never matter to anyone. But here, they were treated like gold. Her mother's voice trembled with emotion. "Your past life made you think you were worthless, but in this life, we will remind you every day what you truly deserve." She felt her throat tighten, not from pain, not from hunger, not from humiliation, but from a feeling she had never been allowed to experience in her first life. Love without conditions, family without cruelty, a future without fear. And as she stood in her new room, sunlight pouring over her new beginning, the narrator brings the truth. In her first life, she begged for food. In this one, her childhood doodles will become luxury jewelry worth millions. Her old identity, the starved girl from the storage room, was gone. Her new identity, Gao Yi, daughter of a billionaire family, future icon of the design world, and the girl who would make the Chengs regret every cruel choice they ever made. At 18 years old, an age where most students are still figuring out who they want to be, she stood in the center of a glittering gallery, surrounded by the world's most powerful eyes. Spotlights illuminated her creations. Crowds whispered her name in awe. Cameras flashed like she was already a legend. And for the first time in both her lives, she wasn't invisible. She wasn't the girl in the storage room. She wasn't the daughter who begged for scraps. She was something entirely new. A jewelry prodigy. A rising star. Gao Yi. Industry titans examined her pieces, delicate designs shaped from memories of hunger, loneliness, and stolen childhood. Every curve, every gemstone, carried a story she had once been too scared to tell. And then he arrived. Edward, the titan of the global jewelry world. A man whose approval could turn a designer into an international icon. He lifted one of her pieces gently, as if touching something sacred. Then he smiled. "Remarkable," he said. "A mind like this is rare. Extraordinary. I want you on my team." Applause erupted around her. People rushed to take photos. Reporters scribbled notes like they were documenting the rise of a legend. And she just stood there, heart steady, not proud, not boastful, but peaceful. Because this wasn't luck. This wasn't charity. This was the life she should have had all along. She was no longer just surviving. She was dominating. Across the city, in their dim living room filled with tension, the Cheng family gathered around the TV. At first, they thought it was a normal news broadcast.
Then the headline flashed. National sensation, jewelry prodigy, Cheng Yi, Gao Yi, age 18. Their hearts dropped. Her father leaned forward, disbelief twisting his expression. Her mother's voice cracked, filled with denial. Ba clenched her fists so tightly her nails left marks on her palms. The reporters spoke with admiration, a genius designer rising faster than anyone in the last decade. Industry mogul Edward personally inviting her into his elite design team. A full gallery exhibition at only 18 years old. The Cheng family panicked. At first, they tried to rewrite the story. It's because she used the Cheng name, her mother insisted. That's our influence, our upbringing. She's benefiting from our reputation, Ba snapped, trying to hold on to the last shred of superiority she had left. Her father nodded aggressively, trying to convince himself more than anyone else. All her achievements came from being raised under our roof. But deep down, each of them felt a cold fear creeping in. Because nothing about the exhibition looked familiar. Nothing resembled them. Nothing connected to the Cheng brand. Nothing felt like something she owed to them. The narrator reveals the truth with a steady, devastating calm. The gallery wasn't booked by the Chengs. The investors weren't theirs. The designers, jewelers, reporters, and vendors weren't connected to them at all. Every banner read, Gao Family Private Exhibition, curated and sponsored by the Gao Corporation. Her entire success, every achievement, every praise, every opportunity was rooted in the love and support of the family they tried to erase. Her adoptive parents stood at the front of the gallery, proudly taking photos with guests. Her brother stood beside industry leaders, discussing future collaborations. Her designs were displayed under her new name, Gao Yi, designer, visionary, the future of the industry. Not a single trace of the Cheng family existed, not even a shadow. And the narrator drives in the final truth. Her success did not belong to the Cheng family. Not her name, not her talent, not her rise. It belonged to her, and the family who never let her starve. As the broadcast ended, the Cheng home fell silent. The weight of reality settled over them like cold stone. They didn't just lose a daughter. They lost the only person who could have saved their collapsing reputation. Because the girl they starved was now standing on top of an industry they could never reach. And she wasn't finished. The Cheng family hadn't slept in days. Their reputation was unraveling. Their business partners were restless. Their empire was crumbling faster than they could control. And in the middle of the storm stood the Cheng patriarch, a man willing to gamble everything to stay afloat. Desperate to recover their prestige, he placed a reckless bet. North American ore, a mining region already showing signs of destabilization. Rising temperatures, reports hinting at underground pressure shifts, satellite warnings about potential floods. Every indicator screamed danger. But the Cheng father hid every risk behind forged projections and polished presentations. He signed new contracts, courted new investors, promised guaranteed stability, and forced Ba into the industry's biggest jewelry design competition. Because in his mind, one thing could still save them. One glittering trophy. One headline declaring Ba the new jewelry star. One illusion of talent and stability. Maybe that would make everyone forget the lies underneath their empire. The Chengs arrived at the competition dressed like a royal procession. Ba wearing a custom gown, her father standing tall, her mother whispering promises of fame into her ear. They walked in with arrogance. completely unaware that they were walking into their own funeral. Bar was the second to last contestant, the prestige slot reserved for favourites. When she stepped onto the stage, the lights caught her necklace, her earrings, her carefully styled hair. Her piece, Ocean's Heart, was placed under the spotlight, a shimmering blue gem surrounded by intricate silver waves. The judges widened their eyes, the audience gasped, and Bar smiled confidently, believing the applause belonged entirely to her. For a few minutes, it felt like her dream was finally coming true. The judges praised her craftsmanship. The Cheng parents exchanged victorious smiles. Reporters whispered, "That's the winner." Her father leaned back, chest swelling with pride, believing he had finally regained control. To the crowd, Bar looked like the bright future of jewelry design. But to Ye, she looked like the embodiment of every lie the Cheng family had ever told. Then Ye walked onto the stage. No glittering gown, no dramatic entrance, no forced smile. Just calm, controlled, powerful. And the room changed. Without raising her voice, she began dismantling everything the Chengs built. Not through accusations, but through truth. She explained that jewelry meant nothing without honesty, that design relied on integrity, that quality depended on the origins of raw materials. Then she revealed the truth the Cheng family hoped no one would ever discover. The ore Bar proudly referenced in her presentation, the ore the Cheng father promised investors was perfectly stable, the ore he claimed had zero risk. Ye exposed it as a lie. She pointed out the missing export months, the sudden drops in supply, the weather anomalies, the geological warnings. She explained with calm precision that the Cheng Group was using mines on the brink of environmental collapse. Her voice remained steady. The Cheng family began to shake. And before anyone could defend themselves, the screens behind her flickered. And hell opened. A breaking news alert burst across the hall. The room went silent. Reporters froze. Judges stared in shock. Bar's face drained of all color. Breaking news. North American mine region flooded. Images filled the screen. Collapsed tunnels. Destroyed equipment. Workers being pulled from debris. Emergency sirens echoing through the footage. And the headline that shattered the Cheng empire. Major partners of Cheng Group facing immediate bankruptcy due to mine instability. Gasps echoed across the hall. Investors stood up. Phones rang. Whispers turned into shouts. The Cheng father tried to speak, but no words came out. His lies were no longer hidden. His empire no longer protected. Every secret he buried, Ye had just unearthed in front of the entire industry. And the narrator delivers the truth with brutal clarity. The daughter they starved just exposed the empire they built on lies. Bar's trophy dreams vanished. The Cheng father's partnerships collapsed. The Cheng mother's reputation shattered. Their downfall happened in seconds, and they could only watch as Ye walked off the stage, untouched, unbothered, and victorious. Because she didn't win through revenge. She won through truth, through brilliance, through everything they tried to crush out of her. The narrator closes with a warning. Humiliated in business, desperate in reputation, the Cheng family was cornered, and a cornered animal is the most dangerous. In the days following the competition scandal, Bar's world began to disintegrate. Her mother wouldn't look at her. Her father blamed her for their company's collapse. Her brothers avoided her completely. Because now, the truth was out.
Her mother knew she stole the necklace. Her mother knew she pressured Ye. Her mother knew she lied. And worst of all, her mother knew she was the one who pushed her down the stairs. The perfect daughter, the cherished heir, the girl they raised, praised, and pampered, was nothing more than a jealous, desperate imposter. Ba watched from the shadows as news outlets praised Ye's brilliance, her charity, her strength. She watched Gao executives escort Ye with respect, cameras flashing, reporters cheering like she was royalty. And every time Ba looked at Ye on the screen, another crack appeared in the image she'd spent her whole life building. The future she believed belonged to her, the Cheng name, the inheritance, the control, was slipping from her fingers. Because if her mother woke up and revealed the truth, if her lies were exposed, if her role as precious daughter was taken away, she wouldn't just lose status, she would lose everything. And in that growing fear, something inside her snapped. Jealousy transformed into obsession. Obsession twisted into hatred. Hatred hardened into desperation. She convinced herself of one final, twisted truth. If Ye disappears, then everything returns to me. And with that thought, she crossed the line from envy to evil. The night of Ye's grand G-Group banquet, Ba made her move. The hall shimmered with lights, guests toasted, reporters gathered. Ye stepped out briefly to catch her breath, smiling softly, unaware she was being watched. Ba followed her, silent and calculated. She waited until Ye walked into a quiet corridor, then approached her with fake panic trembling in her voice. "Yeah, something happened. Mom woke up. She's asking for you." Ye's heart froze for a moment, and in that moment of hope, that tiny flicker of love she still had for the woman who never protected her, Ba struck. A drug-soaked cloth, a quick grab, a muffled scream. And Ye's world went black. When Ye regained consciousness, she was tied to a chair. Her wrists burned, her vision blurred. The sound of dripping water echoed through the warehouse. The cold open had returned. The nightmare had come full circle. And from the shadows, Ba stepped forward. Her smile wasn't human anymore. It was desperation wearing a mask. She circled Ye like a predator, her voice trembling between laughter and rage. She accused her of stealing her future. She accused her of taking the Cheng family from her. She accused her of taking the spotlight she believed she deserved. And then she confessed, not out of guilt, but out of triumph. "I was the one who pushed Mum down the stairs." The narrator cuts in. She said it not with regret, but with pride. Ba grabbed Ye's face, forcing her to look at her. "She loved me more than you anyway. You think you were special. You think you were the real daughter. Your parents never loved you. Never. You were nothing." Ye's breathing grew shallow, not from fear, but from the crushing weight of remembering every injustice, every scar, every lonely night in the storage room. Ba yanked her forward and screamed, "You ruined everything. You took everything." Her voice cracked into madness. "I won't let you destroy me. Not again." She lifted the metal rod, raised it above Ye's head, ready to end everything. And then, the narrator's voice returns to the line from the hook. "But tonight, every cruel secret is being recorded live." Ba froze. Then she followed Ye's gaze and saw it. The necklace. The diamond one she tried to destroy. The one she accused Ye of stealing. now lying against Ye's collarbone, its tiny embedded lens glowing faintly. A hidden camera, streaming everything. Her confessions, her cruelty, her crimes. Live. To the world. To the authorities. To the Gao family. And most terrifying of all, to the Cheng family watching at home. Ba's face drained of colour. Her voice cracked into panic. "Turn it off! Turn it off!" But it was too late. The world had already heard the truth. Everything she buried, everything she destroyed, everything she tried to kill, was now exposed. And the narrator seals the moment. She starved the wrong girl. She bullied the wrong sister. She underestimated the wrong daughter. And tonight, her lies finally ran out. As Ba lunged at Ye in desperation, sirens erupted outside. Shadows moved across the warehouse windows. Footsteps closed in. The Gao family was coming, and they were not coming alone. The warehouse shook with Ba's ragged breathing. Her knuckles were white from gripping the metal rod. Her eyes were wild, darting between Ye and the shadows of the room. And then, Ye lifted her chin. Her voice was weak, trembling, but steady with truth. "This necklace has a hidden camera. Everything you said is being broadcast live." The lens glowed, small, almost invisible, yet powerful enough to shatter an empire. And in that instant, Ba's world collapsed. Across the city, living rooms and offices froze. In the Cheng household, the television replayed the live feed with brutal clarity. Ba's confession, her threats, her cruelty, her madness. The Cheng mother covered her mouth, trembling. Her brothers stared, realizing the sister they defended had committed crimes they could no longer deny. And the Cheng father, the man who hid lies beneath pride, stood stiff, colour draining from his face as the truth stabbed through the facade he had built around his family name. In the Gao mansion, employees gathered in the hallways, hands over their mouths, shocked at the brutality unfolding before them. Investors from around the globe, tuned into the jewellery broadcast channels, watched the emergency stream in disbelief. The girl they had once underestimated, the girl the Chengs abandoned in a storage room, was now exposing a scandal far bigger than anyone predicted. And in the centre of it all, Ye sat bound, bruised, but unbroken. Her voice broadcasted to thousands, maybe millions. The truth the Cheng family hid for years was finally out. Ba's breathing turned hysterical. She spun toward the necklace, toward Ye, toward anything she could destroy to stop the broadcast. Her face twisted in panic as she screamed, rushing forward with the rod. But Ye leaned away, chair scraping against concrete, fighting with every ounce of strength she had left. Ba grabbed her shoulder, shaking her violently. Her voice shattered into madness. "She ruined me! She ruined everything! Give me that necklace!" The struggle moved dangerously close to the warehouse's open ledge, a platform that dropped into old factory machinery below. One wrong step would end everything. Ye's chair tipped. Ba lunged. The rod clanged against the railing. Her fingers clawed at Ye's hair, her clothes, anything she could reach. The narrator describes Ba's descent with chilling finality. Her jealousy turned to rage, her rage into terror, her terror into violence. And then, floodlights exploded through the windows. The warehouse doors burst open. Police stormed in with weapons drawn, shouting commands, rushing toward the platform. Behind them, leading the charge, was her Gao brother. His voice echoed through the entire building. "You! He sprinted toward her, fury and fear colliding on his face. He didn't hesitate. He didn't slow. He leapt between her and Bar just as the railing gave a dangerous shake. Bar stumbled backward, screaming in panic as officers grabbed her arms. Her fight dissolved into sobs and shrieks as she was pinned to the ground. Ye collapsed into her brother's arms, shaking, not from fear of Bar, but from the relief of finally being found. For the first time in her life, someone came for her. Immediately, without doubt, without hesitation. And the narrator seals the moment. The sister who hurt her, broke her, and tried to kill her, met the justice she ran from for years. With Bar restrained, officers escorted her out of the warehouse. Her screams echoed down the corridor, wild, desperate, fading into the cold night. But the justice wasn't finished. Not yet. A black car pulled up. A man stepped out. The Gao family lawyer. He carried a thick folder in one hand and calm authority in the other. Inside the warehouse, the Cheng father stood silently. He had arrived moments after the police call, too late to save anyone, too late to fix anything. His face was grey, his hands shook, his pride was gone. The lawyer opened the folder and let the words cut through the air. These are the final legal severance documents between the Cheng family and Miss Yi. The father stared at the papers. Papers he once believed he would never sign. Papers that meant the daughter he once starved, ignored, and discarded was forever beyond his reach. The lawyer continued. The Gao family requests your immediate signature. This is the last step in removing all parental rights you claimed over her. Silence. Then the narrator speaks. The man who thought daughters were tools signed away the only one who ever carried their name with honor. His pen scratched the page, a sound painfully soft, yet thunderous in meaning. With that signature, she was free, legally, completely, forever. The Cheng father lowered his head. He realized too late that the daughter he threw away was the only one worthy of his legacy. As Ye was carried out of the warehouse, safe in her true brother's arms, the narrator closes. For the Chengs, it was the end. For her, it was finally a beginning. Here is your narrator-only epilogue. 650 plus words. Emotional, warm, cinematic, and perfectly fitting the tone of your documentary-style story. The chaos was gone. The storms had passed. And the girl who once ate cafeteria leftovers in a cold storage room now sat at a warm dinner table, surrounded by real love. The Gao dining room glowed softly with evening light. Warm bowls of soup, fresh vegetables, delicate dishes her mother prepared with pride, not obligation. Her father cracked gentle jokes between bites. If our daughter grows any more talented, we'll need to invest in a museum just to store her awards. Her mother laughed, tapping Ye's hand affectionately. We already invested in her future, the best decision we ever made. And her brother, the unshakable CEO, the protector who burst into a warehouse to save her, leaned back in his chair with a proud smile. Whatever you study, whichever path you choose, you won't walk it alone. Ye smiled, not the timid smile of a girl trying to earn affection, but the calm, steady smile of someone finally safe. She talked about university plans, top schools offering scholarships, professors reaching out, design mentors ready to guide her career. She talked about her jewelry brand, the next collection, new materials, and how the world reacted to her first exhibition. And then she laughed as she shared new dreams. Tech,
live commerce, digital platforms she wanted to explore. She wasn't just thinking about today anymore. She was imagining a future she never believed she deserved. The room filled with laughter, real laughter, the kind that warmed the walls and softened the past. In that moment, she wasn't a girl fighting for survival anymore. She was a girl dreaming again. The narrator speaks softly now, carrying the weight of 2 lifetimes. In her past life, she wasted everything trying to please the wrong people. Every step of that life was shaped by fear. Fear of rejection, fear of hunger, fear of never being enough. She spent years bending herself into shapes that only hurt her more. But this life, this second chance, was different. In this life, she chose herself and the family who chose her first. She learned that love isn't measured by blood, it's measured by actions, by protection, by sacrifice, by the people who show up when the world falls apart. She found peace not because the past disappeared, but because she finally understood it never defined her. She wasn't the girl in the storage room anymore. She wasn't the forgotten daughter. She wasn't the victim. She was Gao Yi, student, designer, dreamer, survivor. And for the first time, her heart was quiet. Later that night, she stepped outside with her brother. The city lights stretched before them, wide, bright, full of endless possibilities. He walked beside her, hands in his pockets, comfortable silence between them. She looked ahead, the future unfolding like a horizon waiting for her next step. And she whispered the quiet promise she made in the moment her second life began. From now on, I don't want to please anyone. I'll take control of my life. Her brother nodded, proud, because this time, she finally believed her own words. The camera slowly pulls back, capturing the silhouettes of 2 siblings walking side by side, leaving the shadows of their past behind. A new life begins. A new story starts. Her story. If you stayed with Ye until the end, you already know. Sometimes, the family you choose is worth more than the blood you're born with. Subscribe for more emotional stories like this and tell me in the comments, at which moment did you feel Ye finally got her justice?